Good morning again and welcome to the second part of our video. Okay, so our lesson is biases and prejudices. Now, on the first video, we talked about biases and now we're going to talk about prejudice. Bias versus prejudice, what's the difference between the two? And today, in this video, we're going to focus on the prejudice part. Okay, so let's go to our lesson outline. Again, atong outline is definition of prejudice and then the bias versus prejudice. Okay, now what is prejudice? Okay, now prejudice refers to a preconceived judgment, opinion, or attitude directed towards certain people based on their membership in a particular group. Okay, so this means nga ang imuhaning idea about a certain person just because he is a member of a certain group. Okay, and Allport has given a better or a much sharper definition of prejudice. He has this definition of prejudice as an adverse or hostile attitude. That means kanang murag feel niya nga kalaban gyud mo. Hostile attitude toward a person who belongs to a group simply because he belongs to that group and is therefore presumed to have the objectionable qualities ascribed to that group. Okay? So that means objective lang ang qualities. Okay? So, let's say for example ka ng mga kuwan. I don't want to be prejudiced, ha, but let's have this in the context of kanang kuwan. Kanang recent na inyong mahunahunan. Let's say for example ka ng mga African Americans. Okay? Now, there is a some okay, not some, most African Americans are absentee fathers. Okay, so we can say there may be a prejudice nga kanang pabaya biya ng mga African American fathers sila mga anak. Okay, just because nga member siya, let's say for example nakoy kaila nga African American, just because nga member siya, just because he is an African American, I will have a prejudice idea of him nga he's an irresponsible father just because he is an African American. Okay, and this is where racism kicks in and everything, all the isms na inyong mahunaunaan. Okay, now the thing about prejudice is it's an idea and opinion without factual backing or evidence. That means wala ebidensya. Sa bias, in bias we can have evidence, we can have factual backing. Okay, ato lang ibutang sa tong preference, di ba? But here in the prejudice, it's just an opinion or an idea, but it doesn't have evidence. Walay ebidensya, therefore it's not true. It's not backed by research, so it's not true. Okay, so maingon ko nga African American fathers are absentee fathers. If I say that one, that does not have evidence. That doesn't have a factual backing unless na lang if makaproduce ko og kanang statement that is being backed by research and others. Okay? If it doesn't have any evidence or factual backing, then this is just a prejudice. It's not a bias. Okay? Now let me show you a few examples of prejudice. Okay? So we have here, the first kind of prejudice is racism. Okay? When racism, that means you're having a notion about a race. Let's say for example here, when you pass by Pasil, you need to avoid the Badjao settlement if you want to come out safely. Okay, so that means ang kaninga statement giingon niya nga ang mga Badjao kay mga hilabtanon, or they're thinking kanang they want to do something bad on you or something bad on us. That's a prejudice statement against the Badjao people. Okay? The next one is sexism. Okay, o kani very recent statement, women can't become presidents. Okay. Oh, without any factual backing. Okay? So, women can't become presidents is actually a prejudiced statement. Okay? For kaning sexism. Next, ageism. Now, kung may ageism, that means tungod sa age. Okay, from the word age, tungod sa edad. Either you're too young or too old. Okay? So here in our statement, you're too old to work, you have to retire. So that means just because he is old, na kinahanglan na siya mo retire. Okay? And that's what is happening mostly here sa Philippines. Just because tigawang naka, dapat ka mo retire, blah, 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 blah. Dili para sa uban countries na, if ligon pa ka, trabaho. Diba? So, ageism is very kanang kusog here sa ato. Next, ableism. That means ang imong ability. That means if pungkol ka or naa kay sakit, naay notion, nanay preconceived notion or idea sa imo. Let's say for example here, are you sure you want him to present our work? He has a cleft palate or bungi. Oh, bungi siya. Siya imo pa-presenton nga bungi man na siya. Oh, di ba? So that is actually a prejudice statement. Walay actual backing. What if I have a student when I was teaching senior high school in my previous school nga. He has a cleft palate but he is a really good speaker. Okay? And mind you, masabtan ra po niyang istorya. So, having that one is not a hindrance to the things that kanang na mabuhat sa normal person. Okay? And this statement is just a prejudice statement. Okay? Kaya wala man siya actual backing. Even sa experience, hindi man siya makasurya. Okay? So, that's our examples of prejudice. Now, let's differentiate the two. Okay? Let's differentiate the two between bias and prejudice. Bias being the green and prejudice being the blue. Okay? When we say bias, it's an inclination for or against a person, idea, or thing, especially in a way to be considered unfair. So that means inclination ra siya. Pagdapig or preference, okay? For or against a person. While prejudice is a preconceived notion, it's an or opinion. That means idea na nimo diri that is not based on actual experience or reason. Or wala say actual backing or evidence. Okay? Bias has both negative and positive attitudes. Let's say for example, akong maghimo kog statement then akong i-feature si Vice President Leni Robredo. Okay? Pwede mo kumingon nga, uy, kanang buutan, kanang bright kaayo og maths si Leni Robredo, kay 4 times 4 equals 1,600. O bright kaayo siya. I mean, positive. Example na positive. You're giving positive attitude. But when it comes to prejudice, racism, that's negative, di ba? So, usually, negative thoughts yun ang prejudice. Sa bias, pwede ka mag-positive, pwede ka mag-negative. Now, ang result sa bias, the result of bias is only prejudice. The result of bias is only unfairness. Uy, unfair kaayo ka. Unfair kaayo inyong news. Uy, bias kaayo mo. Unfair kaayo mo. That's bias. Okay? But when you have prejudice statements will lead to discrimination. Kaya ang kana siyang usa from a group kay imo namang gi-generalize tanan. Even though he's just a African American, you keep on thinking na he's an irresponsible father. Okay? So, it leads to discrimination. So, I hope that you have learned something in our statements. Sa ato ang lesson karon with all the statements, and I hope enough ra atong statements. Your exercise tomorrow will surely help you in identifying further or exploring further this topic. So thank you everyone for watching. God bless you.